Hi, this is Michael Edwards, instructor for the Big Data and Bioinformatics course at the high school. Um, in this tutorial, part one, what we're doing is looking at data obtained from the NFL. And what we're using is Excel to develop algorithms to potentially basically analyze this data, predict the scores for the next week, what factors are playing the biggest role, and how much in the score difference that we see. I'd also like to stress, especially for legal reasons, that this is not for betting. Um, so, this is just a exercise to look at the data. All right. So, and if you do win any money, you owe me 10%. Just kidding. That was a joke. All right. So again, we have our teams here. And these values here, so we have two values for these teams. One says, so for this example, Arizona defense, this is basically in this column or in this row, what we're going to put are the amount of points that the Arizona defense allowed the other team to score. And again, on the flip side of that, how many actual points did the Arizona team score? So we have an offense, defense. If you were thinking of this as a company, you could think of this profits, debts, potentially. So given here are the actual scores. Whoever Arizona played scored 17 points while they scored 18. Again, we're doing that for each week. We do this for all 32 teams. To kind of anchor my algorithm, what I've done also is I've done this last year, and so what I've calculated the average, what the Arizona defense allowed last year and what the offense on average scored per game. This is actually a weighted average, and I'm going to show you how that works. So what we could do is we could actually take the average of all of these and see what the Arizona defense should allow and what their offense should score. We can also, whoever they're playing, we can basically take those same values and basically subtract the difference from the offense for the opposite teams. So in my analysis, so again, you could do that. You could just take the straight up average, but that basically considers every week the same. So everyone gets equal billing, and you're computing the average. I haven't played football and sports in general. Usually it's the games that are closest to what they are going to play or to that week that's probably more informative. So what I've done over here is I've actually taken these values and I've weighted them. So given here is this value. So this was the average for 2000, the year 2013, and basically took it times this number. And you can see these values up here. So if you take the average of all of these, they do equal 1. But again, you can see this is ascending. So that genes, I'm in bioinformatics, by the way. So in week 4, we're taking whatever the score was times 1.1. So we're actually weighting it. It's going to affect the average more than, say, what they did in 2013 or even what they did in week 1. So as we do this, we basically get these values here. And you can put anything you want up here. Basically, in this column, I compute the average. And to do that, you just hit this function bar here. And if you have a PC, this window might look different. But what you want is the average. You can double click on that. And given here is your list. Oops. So now what I can do is I could say I've chosen the function average. Now I have to tell the software which cells or numbers I want to average. So I'm just going to drag this over here to week 4 and hit return. So now the weighted average for the amount of points the Arizona defense allows per game is about 16 points. So if we want this to carry all the way down this column, this function, we want to take the average of all of these. I'm just going to put my cursor until I get that little cross here. I'm just going to pull it all the way down. All right. So these are the values that we're going to use to compare. What we're actually going to take these values in this column and these teams and basically match those up with its opposing team. Take the averages of the defense versus offense on the other teams, and we should be able to get a pretty good idea of how many points they should score and eventually who should win. You'll notice some of these are values here, so the software doesn't like empty boxes, and some of these actually do. So a lot of these teams had buys this past week. So we can just take a. So what I'm doing here is I'm copying this. You can get the copy from up here under Edit, Copy. Or what I do, and which is quicker, is just putting Control C if you have a PC. It's Command C on a Mac. So I've copied that, and I'm going to paste it over here. And again, you can paste it on the window here, Edit, Paste, or we can just hit Command or Control V. Okay. Now what I can do is just paste all the ones with where they had the buy. Oops, no. Let me copy one of these, and then now I think I could paste them all. Oops. Go down here. So this will be your master page. This is the page you're going to use to compute the averages. And from that, in the next tutorial, I'm going to talk about, so every one of these tabs represents a different week in the NFL. And this is where you're going to take this information and compare it to whatever teams they're playing. And from this, we can actually compute potential scores, or how many points should they score based on how much they usually produce per game versus how many the other team allows. All right. Thank you very much.